It's not possible.
I didn't say it would be easy, Neo.
Would the offender please introduce yourself for the record, stating your name and DOC number?
Murphy Gene Lambright, 462703.
Thank you, Mr. Lambright. Let me explain the process to you. First, I will read information into the record, then the board will conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow the participants who have indicated to speak to add their input. We have one person here in support who will be speaking, Mr. Demario Daniel Jackson, son. And then for our opposition side, we have Ms. Melanie Millett, VAC. With her is the victim's family. We have Sharon Allen, Thomas Warren, who will be speaking, Jerry Warren, who will be speaking, Jimmy Warren, and Johnny Warren. And we also have Mr. Derek Johnson, Reppies ADA. At the end, Mr. Lambright, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand the process, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is the case for Murphy Gene Lambright, DOC number 462703, date of birth September 10, 1950, classified as a first felony offender, offense manslaughter, sentencing date December 10th, 2002, sentenced to a total of 30 years, parole date October 16, 2021, good time September 11, 2026, full term October 15, 2031. Is this information correct, sir?
Correct.
Does that sound correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Good morning, Mr. Lambright. My name is Bonnie Jackson. I've been assigned your case. Good morning.
Good morning.
And can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If,
It's
a little loud, but
I'm a little loud. You want me to?
the whole thing is a little loud for me, but
Okay.
I'll manage.
Okay. Well, I've been assigned your case, and I'll be starting off the questioning. Mr. Lambert, you're 71 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been incarcerated on this crime?
20 years plus a few months.
This involved the death of your girlfriend, is that correct?
That's right.
She was beaten to death. You said that there was a fight, a disagreement over some drugs. You flipped out, and as a result of that, you ended up killing her, and you actually strangled her to death. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you at the time?
I have no idea, ma'am.
You don't know how old you were when this crime happened? Would you have been in your 50s, your late 40s, or early 50s?
Probably in my 50s, because probably 51.
Okay. All right. How long had you known Miss Lamb, the victim in this case?
A couple years.
Okay. And you indicated that both of you were involved in drug use. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of drugs were you using?
Crack cocaine.
And when did you start using crack cocaine?
Whenever I met her at the job that I worked, she wanted to go down the road.
Let's move away from her. Before you met her, what kind of drugs were you using?
Zero.
So you had never used drugs before your relationship with the victim?
No, ma'am.
And so how did she get you involved in using drugs? You were 51, you were in your late 40s or early 50s when you met her. So how would you allow someone else to get you involved in drug use at that point in your life?
She wanted to go down the road and smoke some crack, so I went with her. And that's the first time that I know anything about it.
Well, why would you choose to smoke crack?
I had no idea, ma'am.
Okay, well, once you started using crack, how often did you use it?
Probably on weekends, Thursdays and Fridays, you know, whenever paycheck come around.
And what kind of work were you doing, Mr. Lambright?
I'm a welder.
Where were you working? What kind of place were you working at?
They built trailers.
Okay, and did she work for that same company?
No, ma'am, she wasn't working nowhere.
Well, I thought you said you met her on the job.
I did. I was a diesel mechanic for another place.
Okay. And she worked there?
No, ma'am. She and another woman would come visit somebody else.
Okay. So let's talk about the last 20 years. Where have you spent most of your time in prison?
I spent most of my time, or you know, location wise, or what?
Yes, sir. Location wise.
I've been to Angola.
Okay, so let's stop there. How long did you stay in Angola?
88 days.
Okay, and then where did you go?
To Allen Correctional Center.
How long did you stay in Allen?
I think I stayed there 2 years.
All right, and then from Allen, where did you go?
Back to Rapides Parish.
The parish jail?
DC 3 and 2. DC 2 is a work release facility, and I went there as a trustee.
And how long did you stay in Allen?
Allen, 2 years.
And why did you end up being moved from Allen to someplace else?
I went from Allen to Rapides Parish. And
where were you in the work release program?
I worked in the
What facility were you at when you were in work release?
I don't get what you.
Where were you in work release? What facility were you in when you were doing the work release?
Rapides Parish work release.
How long did you stay in Rapides Parish work release?
I think about 10 years.
And where were you? What kind of job did you have in work release?
I was a trustee, and I worked in the store. I worked in the laundry, and then I worked in the motor pool.
And how did you end up getting transferred from Rapides to where you are now?
My legs, my knees started giving out. I have no cartilage in my legs. It's bone to bone, and it's hard for me to walk. So I had to come down here for medical.
Well, what kind of programs have you taken, Mr. Lambright? I'm kind of concerned because I don't see a whole lot of programs, but tell me, what kind of programs have you completed since you've been in prison?
I've taken everything that I possibly could.
Okay, but I need to know what those are. I don't know what you had. What kind of substance abuse treatment have you had, Mr. Lambright?
When I was at Allen, I got into the AA, NA, anger management course.
Okay, well, were you in, is that two separate things? AANA and anger management, are those two separate programs?
Yes,
Or was
ma'am.
it- Okay, so how long did you attend the AA program? Do you think?
Well, it also had the mental health aftercare after you completed your substance abuse and alcohol deal. Then I went into aftercare.
Okay, so what was the mental health aftercare? I saw that, but what was that? Were you being treated for mental illness?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I was just going through the steps of what they showed of what a person can make a change in his life. And in the mental health aftercare program, they started showing films about violence.
Okay.
I
And
got
so-
up and I
Go
got up
ahead.
I got up and walked out because there's too much fighting going on in the movie. So when I walked out, the instructor, she come and got me, and I explained to her, I can't take violence. I can't take it.
And
So
why was it so hard for you to watch the film?
come out charge.
Okay. You want to explain? Take your time, it's all right.
All the arguing and hollering that she done, I just can't take it anymore. That's the reason why I stay off to myself now. I listen to my radio and I listen to Jimmy Swagger or gospel music because I get comfort in that, and I don't have to hear all this other stuff.
Have you ever been on mental health medicine while you've been in prison?
At Allen, they put me on it, and I was in line to go to chow, and everything turned white. The fence, the concrete, the grass, everything turned green, and I was holding on to the fence. And I fell and I twisted when I broke my ankle. After that, I threw all the medicine away. I said, I don't need that junk.
And that was medication for mental health?
Well, it was a medication for something. And I got where I cannot take strong stuff because all of what happened to her keeps coming back.
Okay. All right, I understand.
Okay.
So who's responsible for what happened to her?
I am.
And you accept responsibility for that, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, if you were to be released, Mr. Lambright, you're 71 years old, you're not in good health, you got bad knees. So how would you live? How would you make it in the world? Who would you live with?
I have my parents' house, the house that I was raised up in. I'm getting it. It's a big 5-bedroom house, big brick house and everything. Is where I raised.
You have any siblings, any brothers and sisters?
I have a son and a daughter. I have a brother in Texas, and I have a sister in California.
And you would be living, is anybody living in that house right now?
I have a nephew that's living in there right now. He was my brother's son, and my brother would not quit smoking, so he died of cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I mean, how do you know you and this nephew are going to be able to get along and live together? Because you say you don't like conflict, you don't like hollering, and you go into this home with this much younger man, and it's not going to be easy for him to adjust to having you there. What if y'all don't get along? What if there's this arguing and fussing that you have a hard time dealing with?
My nephew is going back to his daddy's house.
How do you know that?
Because he's already agreed to the transaction. I will be there by myself. My nephew he just got appointed on the police force there in Elizabeth. So he's going to have to go back to his daddy's house.
Okay. Well, you think you're going to be able to live alone, Mr. Lambright, given your health and your bad knees?
Yes, ma'am. I would love to live alone where it's peace and quiet, where I can listen to the wildlife. I mean, this is country.
Okay. Well, how you gonna support yourself financially?
I get approved to get out of here. I'm going straight to the VA hospital, and I have been through the PTSD program. And
When were you in the military, Mr. Lambright?
I was in the U.S. Navy from 70 to 74. I've traveled 3/4 around this world.
Okay, what kind of discharge did you get from the Navy?
I got an honorable discharge.
All right. All right, Mr. Lambright, thank you. That's all that I have.
That it?
Yeah, no, you have to stay.
Oh,
At this time,
Mr.
I see he
Wise,
has,
Mr. Wise, I'm sorry, I forgot to get remarks from the warden. What can y'all tell us about Mr. Lambright since he's been at your facility?
Since he's been here, he has 0 write-ups. I do see where the senior staff who's been directly interacted with Mr. Lambright give him favorable marks as noted in his packet. And I've I guess became acquainted with Mr. Lambright when I first became appointed at Hunt at a church service. That's where I saw him on the rake yard in his wheelchair, lamenting, and I just went over and comforted him, and he's just been who he is since I've met him.
Okay, and how long has that been?
That's been July of last year when I came back to Hunt.
Okay.
And I did see where he's been through behavior management where, yeah, in 17, that's in 5-7, that's our transitional program. And since that, I noticed that he's in the vets dorm where that's also some, I call it an aftercare or perpetual treatment, trauma healing, PTSD, AANA and other self-help groups. And again, he could volunteer to leave out of that dorm also. It's not mandatory, but I guess he feels peace there.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Wise.
At this time, I see his son, Daniel Jackson, son, is going to be speaking. Anything you'd like to say to the board, sir?
Yes, sir. I have communicated with my dad a good bit, and I truly feel it in my heart that he has grown from the actions that he have done. You know, I think he's came a long ways, and I really, you know, it says a lot, you know, him showing, being apologetic for his own actions. You know, I think he's really matured, and I think it's about time for him to, you know, focus on, you know, bettering his health and doing whatever it takes, you know, in aftercare, because, you know, he's received all, you know, as much needed treatment. And if there's anything else he needs to receive, I know he has an open mind and open heart to willing to take care of it.
Can I ask Mr. Jackson a question? Where do you live, Mr. Jackson?
I'm in Houston.
Do y'all have any family where Mr. Lambert proposes to live?
My nephew, well, he's my cousin, which is his nephew, lives at the, you know, just like he stated. But, you know, my sister's in Lafayette and my mother's in Leesville. But as he stated, you know, my cousin is living at my grandfather's house.
Do you know that your cousin plans to move away and go to live someplace else?
The house that my uncle that died is right next door. It's probably a half block away. So even if, you know, they will have that great, you know, uncle nephew relationship, because the house is, you know, they're so close.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Quarter mile.
At this time, in opposition, Mr. Thomas and Jerry Warren, if you would unmute your mic and you can speak. Anything you say, be sure you say directly to the board. I still muted.
Hear me now?
Okay, at this time, sir, if you would state your name.
My name is Thomas Warren. I'm Sherlin's youngest brother. And as a whole,
Okay.
we all feel the same way as we have been feeling about this situation. That Murphy needs to go ahead and spend the rest of his time incarcerated. For one, I heard in the comments that y'all were speaking of earlier, the lady was asking him questions, and he was actually pretty much, he wasn't really what you call in prison. He was right here in Rapides Parish doing some kind of work release program. I don't agree with that, and ain't none of my business on that end. That's the way the Rapides Parish, the way the courts and all do things. But I feel like he should have been in back when he was younger, in some kind of physical labor, maybe hard labor for the things he's done. Now he's done gotten old and everything, older gentleman. But I just really don't feel for the man myself. He took a life. He took from our family. He's He don't really, I just don't understand. None of this really, but I feel the same way as I felt before, and I said the Lord's gonna have his hands in on this. It's between him and God, but as a family, we're just humans. We don't have the strength that God's got, and it really has hurt us in a bad way. And the pain is still there. And coming back through this again and having to relive this again, we just did this 4 months ago, or 6 months, whatever how long it's been. And we're doing this again. And I just feel like the man needs to go ahead and spend the rest of his time and pay for his crime. He done the crime, do the time. That's how I feel. That's all I got to say about the matter.
Okay, Miss Jerry. Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anything you'd like to say to the board, be sure and say it. And you're the victim's other brother, right?
Right. I'm about middle ways of the siblings.
Okay.
First thing I'd like to say is I thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to be able to speak. Because if nobody speaks, it probably would go the other way or whichever way this thing's going. But this, just like my brother said, we go through things. I think about her all the time. I can't do nothing about it. It's done. But I can tell you this. I've sat here and watched this right here, and he has showed not one ounce of a remorse to my sister right there. All he was talking about how is he was trying to put the fault on her. And I know everybody watching this, watch him say what he said, you can very well see that. I don't agree with having to go through this all the time because he's dragging us right back through it. He done what he done. Okay. There was a time before this incident happened, and I may not be able to say this, but before this incident happened, I talked to Murphy about all this stuff and how he need to leave my sister alone because they was always arguing and fighting. He held a gun to his head, talked him away from him, went to the hospital with him. I tried to help him, but he did not listen. So he needs to do what he chose, not nobody else. He chose it himself to do this sentence. And by God, he ought to do every minute of it. And that's just the way I feel. And there's not much more I can say. I miss my sister, love her. He wasn't there to see how this devastated my mother. You didn't see all that. You don't know what we're going through. You don't have an inkling. I can guarantee you nobody's ever killed one of his siblings. So I feel like he needs to do, just like any other person that commits something like this, he needs to carry out his sentence that he promised to do. And when that sentence is over with, he'll never hear me. He'll never hear me. When he comes up parole, when his sentence is over with, I won't be here to try to deny it or try to stop it. That'll be between him and the Lord. But anytime he comes back up, and I know he's listening to me, he can bring this up 40 more times if he wants to during this sentence. But I promise you, I will be here to try to stop it. I wasn't here at the last one because I was in surgery. But I will be here every chance I can, along with my brothers and my sisters. We will be here to try to stop it. So I wouldn't waste my time with it. You need to do that sentence. You promised to do that sentence. That was your obligation. You didn't want to go to court for second-degree murder. That was your own decision to do what you done. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, no other questions there. Anything, Mr. Murphy, you'd like to say to the board before we vote? Hold on. I see, 1 second. I see Derek Johnson, the Rapides Parish District Attorney's officer. Sorry about that, Derek. I didn't see you down there. I got you now. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. It is the position of the Rapides Parish District Attorney's Office that Mr. Murphy Lambright continue and serve out the remainder of his sentence. Sitting here today, I see a couple things have changed since 4 months. You know, in 4 months' time, he acts like he's rehabilitated. 4 months ago, he was very nonchalant, but now he's a born again Christian. None of that was spoken about 4 months ago. Also, I find it hard to believe that he couldn't remember the date and how old he was when he took someone's life. And but he can remember that he spent 88 days here, 2 years there, 2 years there. So he remembers what he wants to remember, what things that are important to him. But he has shown no remorse here today. We believe that he needs to continue his programs, get in more programs, and rehabilitate himself and serve out the remainder of his sentence. I said it in the past, animals are put down more humanely than the way he brutalized and killed the victim. And that was supposed to be someone that he loved and that someone that he cared about, not a stranger. We're not talking about when he was 20 years old. We're not talking about he was 16 years old and made a mistake. He was 40 years old, in his late 40s, early 50s, when he made a mistake. He served his country as a veteran. And it seems that he lost all of those morals and values that was instilled in him when he was a veteran. And me personally, being a veteran, had fought for this country, I'm very ashamed to sit up here and think that he was a veteran and that he couldn't have the intestinal fortitude to walk away from that situation and go down this path that he went down. So we believe that he needs to serve out the remainder of his sentence. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Derek, thank you very much for the comment. At this time, Mr. Murphy Lambright, anything you'd like to say before we vote?
I thank y'all for giving me the time, but to understand what I have gone through in 20 years. A lot of people don't think that I feel remorse for that. She was a perfect woman. It's just the drugs, she just wanted to do more and more and more of it. And that was hard for me to go through. But whenever she had done her side of it, then she started hollering. She wanted more. I have to finish my high. I want to get high. And she got right in my face within inches. MFing, every language that you could think of. And I told her, I don't have any more. She made a swing at me. You don't know what it feels like when you try to get out of something and somebody keeps coming on to you, wanting this, wanting that. Because I had found that she was the kind of a woman that I wanted the rest of my life. but this drugs overpowered everything. I go through this every day, every night. In prison, you hear all the filthiness that is repeated daily, daily, daily. All this here yakking, they arguing over nothing that should be done. So I put my headphones on and I listen to my radio. I listen to what God says through the music, because Jesus Christ hung upon that cross for me, for you, for everybody. You got to realize that every song I hear reflects everybody in this world. All you got to do is listen. Your name is in that song. My name is in that song. You've got to listen, because Jesus Christ is talking to you.
Okay. All right. At this time, the board will be voting. We're going to start with Miss Bonnie Jackson.
Well, let me just say to the family of the victim, I sympathize with you. I know that the pain never goes away. Hope is that it gets a little better, but I know it never goes away. And I certainly thank you for sharing with the board your input. Also, Mr. Jackson, I'd like to thank you also, and Mr. Johnson. Mr. Lambert, this is a hard case. Not so much because of the facts, because we deal with a lot of bad facts, we do. But the concern I have, you have a low risk, you're 71 years old, you've been in prison for 20 years, but I do have some concerns about your mental health issue. At one point, you talked about having had PTSD. I don't know if that's a diagnosis you received from the VA prior to this incident, but I do know that when you actually called the police, you actually told them what you had done, and what you said was that you had flipped out. And so that makes me think that maybe you have had PTSD. I don't know, if you've gotten a formal diagnosis of it, but I am concerned about your mental health issue. I'm concerned that when they had you on medication, you decided you would stop taking the medication. So I would like to see you go through a mental health evaluation. You're there at Hunt, they can do that. I would prefer to see you go through a mental health evaluation and get a diagnosis and a treatment plan. So my vote today, because of your age, because of your low risk score, because you have maybe only one disciplinary, and that came from the escape when you walked away from work release. But my vote would be to grant, conditioned on you going through a mental health evaluation there at Hunt, that they have a treatment plan for you so that you can follow that treatment plan upon your release. So that's my vote today, Mr. Lambright, but I'm only one vote. So wait for my colleagues.
Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lambright, I've listened to what you had to say. I've listened very intently to the family of the victim, and I appreciate their being here, and I appreciate the difficulty it is for them and all the grief that they've gone through. Mr. Lambright, I agree with Ms. Jackson. I believe you have some mental issues that need to be addressed. I assume perhaps it's your mental issues that preclude you from accepting responsibility. I mean, all you've done is blame this lady on drugs. You claim she made you do these drugs. You chose to do that. I haven't seen that you've taken a lot of substance abuse programs. You said you took an AA-NA, and I know back in 2013 or something, you had a certificate for 1.5 years of sobriety. But I don't know what your plan is for staying sober if you get out. I do not like the transition plan you have. I mean, you've got real issues. You're going to be living alone. There are a lot of problems. And I think you probably need more long-term substance abuse evaluation and treatment. And I'm not convinced granting conditioned upon a plan is something that I can live with. Although you are 71 years of age, you've got a low recidivism rate, I just see too many issues. My vote today is going to be to deny your parole. I'm going to recommend that you do be allowed to do mental health, take your medication, listen to the doctors, and perhaps, I mean, you apparently you were here not long ago. Come back when you've had all of that. I might be in a different frame if I'm still on this board and if I'm on that panel. But today, my vote is to deny. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. This time I'm going to be voting. You know, Mr. Murphy, I listened to it really attentively. I see some issues here that I've never seen no remorse the whole time. Towards the last, you started showing a little remorse there right at first, and you blame everything on her. You've been to the Army. You've been to everywhere all over the world. Hey, let me tell you something. You're a grown man. If there's problems like that, hey, walk away. Walk away. You don't need to stand there and you take care of the law in your own hand. Today, I'm voting to deny. You got strong law enforcement opposition. Also, the district attorney in Rapides Parish is strongly opposition to your release. And do I think you need mental health evaluation? Yes, but you should do that in prison. Today, my vote is to deny. The vote was today to deny this hearing. Thank you very much.